big deal with it.
I was going to say, you were mentioning the problems sometimes that occur when a state agency gets involved. I can remember a lot of turf battles of businesses trying to get an entrance onto a state highway that lasted for years.
Yes. Yeah, we still once in a while have that, although I'll give them credit, they are trying to speed that up. But there's been a few instances, even after they've tried to straighten out that process, where we still had a lengthy time frame. Hopefully it keeps moving in that positive direction. It's like I said, time to businesses is money. And in most cases, these state personnel who oversee that and grant permits, whether it be in that, the mining, or whatever you need a permit in, pretty well know once you hand them the what you need to do. And they should be able to turn that around in a day or two and say, here, it's fine, or here's what you need to do to get it. But again, I think some of it comes down to turf, power. You're going to do it the way we want it done, and you're going to cross every T and dot every I, even where they have some flexibility, and looking at each one on its own merits. So you still run into a good bit of that kind of infighting, might be a way to say it, but there has been some progress, at least on entrance permits. Now, not yet where it should be, but there has been some movement because of all the yelling there's been throughout the state, not just our part of the state. If it just be our part of the state, I'm not sure there'd have been as much movement as there has been, but there has been a fair amount of movement in trying to speed the entrance permit process up.
The limitation on state funding cut to local education, you had some success in getting some language in there that would limit it to 5% for jurisdictions like Garrett County, and it seems to be going along pretty well, although I did catch wind that maybe there was a hiccup in the BRFA. Doesn't that sound good? A hiccup in the BRFA.
There you go.
Yesterday that may scuttle a little bit. Is there anything to that?
Yes, there is. What I understand, the bill I put in is not passing. We're doing the same thing we did last year. I put the bill in last year. What we did last year was forgot the bill, just put the amount of money in the BRFA, said here's what it's going for. That's what the Senate did this year. We're not going to pass the bill, but we found enough money out of some other categories, because you have to figure out how to fund these, but we found $1.2 million. I'm going to round it off, $1.2 million, which at this point, when we first started this, and as I said before, all these numbers keep changing, and we set it at 5%. There were two counties involved, Allegheny and Garrett. Well, the numbers have changed, and they keep changing about every month. Now Allegheny, I think, is below 5, so they wouldn't be eligible. The only one still be eligible would be Garrett, but a little less than when we actually started the process. So it is in the Senate version. The House took it out. Now, Delegate Beitzel has been working very hard over there. He's working with the Speaker, the Chairman of the committees, and so it'll be brought up again in conference committee, because it's in on our side, not in on their side. I feel good and have got wind of some commentary that I think our side will prevail, so I'm still confident that we're going to end up getting that money, and the bulk of it, if not all of it, would go to Garrett County this coming year. I'm not sure we can fight and win this battle every year, so even if we get it for the coming year, the following year, if we're still losing students and losing a lot, I'm not sure we can continue to keep getting that, and you can't get them to put something in the budget language or amend the bill I put in to say we need a group to study how they compute wealth for K through 12 education, because I still think the way they do that's unfair. Paul, you could talk for a month and never convince me that Garrett County is the 5th wealthiest county in this state. Every other criteria we use, we're close to the bottom. But because of the way they compute wealth for K through 12 education, we are considered the 5th wealthiest county in this state.
Well, I tell you, it's a tough fight, I know, and I guess the toughest fight is to get a bunch of people that aren't from your area to focus on what's important to your area.
Yeah, and over the years I've I will say in the context, I've gained a lot of friends, and I think respect from my colleagues, and they understand a lot of our issues now, and we're the only part of the state that has some of these issues that we're talking about. So I think that's what's been helpful in getting this money in for backfilling the loss for education, and coal tax credit, for example. My colleagues in the Senate said, we're not doing away with that. The same thing in the House, so it's good for another year. We'll see if they try to take it out again next year, but at least it's good now for this coming year. So, that's how things kind of work. But they get a lot of pressure on them. If you talk about environmental issues, even though none of it impacts their particular area of the state, the environmentalists get on them, and so therefore they say, well, we got to do this because blah blah blah, even though they have no idea what it does. But there's other examples. This sustainable bill we talked about. There should be some differences in it between the metropolitan area and the rural areas. If you remember, Paul, back whenever Paris Denning was governor, is when smart growth started. Mm-hmm. And we did get some things in the rural areas in there that satisfied us at the time, and most rural legislators went along with it then. If we wouldn't have got those things, we probably wouldn't have done that. But this approach really isn't looking at that, and there are a lot of differences between the metropolitan area and smart growth. When it started, you computed and figured where your PFAs were, your priority funding areas, which is very important in this whole process, even in this new process, was based on where you had water and sewage. Well, as you know, back at that time in Garrett County, there were very few places that had central water and sewage systems.
Correct.
So there's only about 3% of our county that is in a PFA, the smallest amount in the whole state, 3%. Most of the big counties, probably a third to half of their counties are in PFAs, so they really don't care about some of this stuff, because most of their land's in a PFA, so they can do a lot more. And then to get something in a PFA, if it isn't there, is again very difficult to do. I mean, you got to go through 1,000 hoops, prove to planning and other people that the world's not going to come to an end if this is a PFA, blah blah blah, and you might get some movement. Maybe not all you want, and we can talk about some of the things we've tried to do in Garrett on that for some time. But those are the things you encounter.
Indeed. Well, I know you have to run off and vote. I appreciate the time this morning. I wish you success and safety in your travels.
Paul. Same to you, and anytime you want to talk, give me a holler.
I will do that.
Okay, take care, buddy.
Uh-huh.
Bye.